Hey everybody, I'm Mikey Andersen, and this is Fantasy Avenue, where each week we talk about everything you need to know in the world of fantasy football. Hello, and welcome to the one and only Fantasy Avenue. Oh yeah, we got a new mic situation, the megaphone. Let's go. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Fantasy Avenue, your road to fantasy football victory. I'm Mikey Andersen. Let's get right into it. Another great week of NFL fantasy football. Let's see what this week has got for us. No guests this time. We're gonna go. It's just me. I know, boring old Mikey's in the building. But again, if anybody wants to be a guest, let me know via the Fantasy Avenue Instagram or at school if you know me. We can get on a call. We can get on a Bluetooth, and we'll see what you got because I'm super excited. The last guest episode went super good. Thank you to everybody who listened to that last one. But yeah, super excited about that. I don't know if we got much else to go over before we get into this episode. Let's do it. Let's get in right into the week's plans. So it is week 14. This is the week 13 review and week 14 insight episode. It's basically playoff time. It's a big deal. There's a lot of things, a lot of you guys are probably either on the cusp of the playoff or out of the playoffs at this point. And there's some things you can do, like there's only so much you can do to get in. It's about risk and reward. If you have a 20% chance to get in the playoffs, you still have a chance. So you got to take some risks. If you are guaranteed the playoffs and this is an easy week, then pick up these guys who are risks and just have them on your bench and see if they pop off. So that next week, if you need them, you can start them. So this week is really about a risk and reward factor. I'm going to talk about the week's games first. Last week's games. We'll get into the boom and bust, and again, any of the boom and bust players from last week, that aren't huge names because obviously trading is now over. Any of those guys that aren't huge names, and they are in the top 5, those are guys that I'll probably talk about a little bit later in the episode, but they're totally guys that you should have your eye on to pick up because they've shown that in a certain scenario they can go for a lot of points, and sometimes if you're on the cusp of the playoffs, that certain scenario is all you need. So let's get into it. There was some big games last week. We had a tie in the Washington New York Giants game. Always interesting. A couple teams. I'm pretty sure it was the last week of teams on bye. If I'm not wrong, I might be wrong about that one. Nope, not the last week. We do have a couple teams on bye this week, including the Bears, Commanders, and the Saints. We're whittling down. We're getting to the playoffs. I'm gonna get the Denver Broncos straight out of the way. Freaking bums, get out of my game. Don't want to see you. We have a Super Bowl caliber defense, and we can't win. And yet teams like the 49ers and the Chargers, find a way with injuries to do good. 49ers especially. I want to talk about the 49ers a bit this episode because the 49ers are so similar to the Broncos in that they have a good defense and a lackluster, not amazing quarterback play, but the 49ers have a little bit less injuries, in their big players, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, their big guys, Christian McCaffrey, honestly. The 49ers are honestly a stacked team, and they showed out against Miami, beating them 33-27. They showed that they're a legit team. What else we got? We got the Cincinnati Bengals taking a dub over the Kansas City Chiefs. That is, I believe, 0-3 for Patrick Mahomes against the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes' only kryptonite is the Bengals. And I don't know if I'm going to talk about this guy later in the episode, but I got to shout out Samaje Perine. Another just great call out by your boy, Mikey Andersen. Write that name down because it's special. Samaje Perine with another great, now 21-point week. With Joe Mixon out, he's having his chance to shine. And I don't think it's going to be a Tony Pollard situation where when the guy comes back, they're both scoring a lot of points, when Joe Mixon comes back. But Samaje is doing what he's doing, and I'm all for it. There was some kind of iffy quarterback play as well last week. I called out Deshaun Watson. I was thinking about making an Instagram post. I'm glad I did not because he only went for 5.34 in a dub against Houston 27-14, but that was mainly a defensive game. I'm sure we're going to talk about the stud Browns defense here in probably 10 minutes because they balled out. Lamar Jackson hurt. Still no news as to whether or not they play next week, so we'll see about that. Yeah, the NFL teams, just like your fantasy teams, are getting into the playoffs. I believe was it the Texans? The Texans are the first team, I believe, to be eliminated from NFL playoff contention. Kind of crazy. And man, I forgot about the freaking Cowboys. 54 points up to, the Cowboys. I know with last week, I think I was talking about Will. We both kind of thought that they weren't really legit. They were kind of pretenders coming into the week as the top. They weren't Philadelphia level, who again showed out 35-10 over the Titans. Philadelphia proved they're a legit team, but I was kind of on the Cowboys on the level of the Lions, who also again, we're getting through all the scores while I'm telling you this is awesome. Lions 40-7 or 40-14 against Jacksonville. I'm not saying the Lions are pretenders, but the Cowboys, I was kind of on the thing that the Cowboys were kind of like Lions, inconsistent, and I didn't know if they could beat big teams in big moments. And not saying that the Colts are really a big team this year, but the Cowboys showed that they can consistently score a lot of points, and they have a running back duo that's one of the best in the NFL in terms of fantasy points right now. It was a pretty incredible week in terms of how many points from a fantasy perspective the Cowboys scored. I don't know how to even access those stats, but just how do I if I just want to look at how many points did every player on the Cowboys team score compared to every player normal weeks, it would be interesting. I'm looking through the week scores. I also want to talk about Keenan Allen. I'll talk about him later. I actually ended up dropping him in one of my leagues. He's a guy that's been injured the whole year, and he's probably on some of your guys' benches. Give Keenan Allen a little bit of a sideways glance, because he has proven that he's not a bad player, and that he can ball when the light shines. So that'll be that. Let's keep going. I think we'll get straight into we're gonna have a bit of a short episode hopefully this week. If we've got 40-minute episode, we'll go a little bit shorter this week. We'll get right into the studs and duds of last week, who I'm kind of thinking that you should be looking out for in terms of what I was saying of, go big or go home at this point. Let's start with quarterbacks. And let's go down the list. This is all. I need to go to all players. Give me 1 second. Okay, all players. Leading the list with 39.4, almost 40 points, Jalen Hurts. Philadelphia Eagles are not a pretender team. Jalen Hurts is a baller. Enough said. Joe Burrow with 30, Geno Smith with 27, Jared Goff with 26, Justin Fields with 24. Not a huge high-scoring week in terms of fantasy points for quarterbacks. I do want to say Mike White, I'll get to him in a bit too, because he with 22, he outscored Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes had a mid-game with only 19.82, but Mike White is more like freaking Mike Knight. Yeah. Okay, that was a failed joke. We'll come back to that one. I'll come back to Mike White. But as for the top guys, we got Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, Jared Goff, Justin Fields. All those guys besides Jared Goff are, continual week-to-week starters. And Jared Goff is inconsistent, but he can be a good backup starter for you right now. Let's go to bust. I'm looking for any quarterbacks under 10, because I know some guys got it. And any big guys that did that. I'm not even going to talk about Russell Wilson anymore, because he's not even a bust. I do want to say a bust is Deshaun Watson with only 5.34. Talked about him a little bit. And Lamar Jackson, obviously, was hurt in the Broncos game. Broncos defense actually ended up doing better against Lamar than they did against the backup, who came in and led the Baltimore Ravens to a nice 10 points. And the Broncos could not beat 10 points, which is why I'll talk about the Chiefs defense later, who's playing the Broncos this week. We'll get to that. But Lamar Jackson with only 1.34, he's questionable coming in this week. I would say he's a sit. I would say lean away from him right now. He's having a rough stretch of games, even though he's still the 6th-ranked quarterback in fantasy. I'll read out his stats real quick. He's only had 2 games plus 20 since week 3. He went 25, 59, and 41 in the first 3 weeks. Then he went 13, 14, 16, 10, had an okay 21-point game, then went 17, 15, 23 against Jacksonville, and then 1 against the Broncos. And somehow he's the number 6 quarterback in fantasy. I don't really get how that works, but as I've said, he can't. He's shown that he's not going to consistently even score you 20 points. So there's guys that are way down the totem pole in terms of fantasy quarterbacks, like Daniel Jones or Tom Brady, that at this point are more consistent than Lamar Jackson. then throw in his injury, and this is not. I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that. That he's my bust, and he's my bust for next week too. I would not, if he's available, I'm not starting him. Let's go to running backs. Christian McCaffrey, 28, baller. Tony Pollard, 24, baller, and an absolute start. He has shown that he gets touches and that he's a consistent player. He got 8 the week before, but he's been, since the bye week, 22, 15, 18, and 12 carries, and he's shown out every game. He gets carries, and the Cowboys know that when he gets carries, he balls. So they're going to keep giving him carries. They've shown that Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard can be a thunder and lightning duo, right? Of Tony Pollard's speed, Ezekiel Elliott's brute force down the middle. They've shown that they can be that 1-2 punch, and I think the Cowboys' offense, after scoring 50, are going to stay with it a bit more. So I think it's safe that he'll get his touches. Number 3, woohoo, Samaje Perine. If Samaje Perine is available in your leagues, and you are a guy that's gunning for a playoff spot, and you have a bench spot, there's no point in having players that you're not going to play on your bench. So drop an okay player on your bench. Drop a Michael Carter or I don't know, I'm looking through just random added players. A David Njoku. Drop a David Njoku and pick up Perine just in case Joe Mixon is not clear for a concussion, because Perine can consistently win you a league. He's rostered in 60% of leagues. It's going up. I would like to think I have a little bit of part of that, because I've been talking about him, and I know we've got some listeners on the podcast in the last couple of weeks, which is pretty hype. But he's shown he can be a good player without Joe Mixon in the lineup, and I don't think he's going to be the thunder and lightning like I just talked about. But if Joe Mixon does not play and you're trying to get into playoffs, this is a good risk and reward for you. Number 4 on that last week, Josh Jacobs, and number 5, DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, it's been a rough year. Huge injury patches, and then he kind of fell backseat to Jamal Williams, excuse me. I don't know. He's inconsistent. I would stay away from him, honestly. He's kind of like, it feels bad, and I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna really say I thought I saw him. I'm 90% sure I saw him in an interview, maybe 50% sure. I'm 50% sure I saw him in an interview saying, when I come back from injuries, like an injury, you shouldn't lose time over. I'm not sure, but anyway, he has lost time with his injury in terms of he come back and now he's the backup because the other guy's been balling. It's about it's a 50-50 type thing. I get that if a player is injured, they shouldn't really lose their starting spot. But if the backup comes in and for 5 weeks is being amazing, then maybe you should lose your starting spot. It's unsure. I'm unsure about that one. Let's go to some busts from last week. One bust, not Javonte. Whoops, I said it again. Jamal Williams, only 9.5 points. I don't know. I think that's a fluke. I would still start Javonte Williams. God, why do I keep doing that? Jamal Williams. Excuse me. If Jamal is listening to this podcast, man, you are a baller. I do not mean no disrespect talking to you like that. I know you're a baller, and I know, talking me to you, that last week was a fluke and that you're going to continue to get the carries in that offense. So I would not be worried. Nick Chubb with only 8. He's had a rough, and Derrick Henry with 4. Jeez, there was some bust running backs last week. Kenneth Walker with only 3.6, and I believe he got hurt in that game. It says he's questionable. Let's go back up real quick. Alvin Kamara with 5.7. Oh, okay, I got to go on a little bit of a tangent. I lose a league by 1. I'm going into Monday Night Football down 6 points, and I got Alvin Kamara playing. Don't tell me Alvin Kamara can't score 6 points. Oh, yeah. Tell me, because he's only got 5.7. He might be one of the most doo-doo inconsistent freaking players in the whole league. And he's such a bust. I'm so glad I traded him away in one of the leagues. But this other one, this is the 4th time I lost by less than a point, because fantasy, like with quarterback scoring and stuff, I believe I've talked about this in the past. You can get like an 1/8 of a point per quarterback yard or whatever. But I've lost by less than a point 4 times this year. And I lost by less than a point 2 times in the last week. Alvin Kamara gets me 5.7, and I lose by 0.7. And then in another league, I don't remember why. It was, I was playing Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I was going against Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They needed like something, 20-something, which is not a whole lot between two. I saw a touchdown by Chris Godwin. They barely got it, and I'm just like, Luckily, none of that kicked me out of the playoffs or anything, but it's still one of the most frustrating things that can happen to you, especially on Monday Night Football when it's coming down to the wire. That's happened 3 times where it came down to a Monday night. Dude, it's freaking happened 2 times. Man, I can't even finish a sentence. That's happened 2 times with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara playing on Monday Night Football. I need like 2 yards, or Sunday Night Football, whatever. He's playing a night game. I need 2 yards, and he gets me 1, and I lose. Ugh, Alvin Kamara. Yeah, you deserve to be a bust this week, Mr. 17 ranked running back, even though you should be like 5th. Get out of my game. Derrick Henry with, what did he get? Freaking loser. 5.8. He's had a couple inconsistent weeks in the last couple weeks, but I would not worry. He's got a very rough string of defenses coming. Wow, he's got a great string of defenses for a fantasy playoffs. He goes against the Jags defense this week, then the Chargers, then the Houston Texans. Houston Texans, I'm pretty sure that would be a fantasy playoff weekend. Ooh, oh yeah, I like to see that. And then Nick Chubb, my 5th ranked running back with only 8. But again, been a little inconsistent since the bye week, but he's still a baller. He's got 15, 9, 22, and 8 since the bye week. I wouldn't worry. He's still a start. It's gonna be very hard you'll be very hard pressed to have 2 guys that you would want to start over him, 2 running backs that you would want to start over him in a league. So I'm not really gonna mention that because I don't really think that's gonna be happening. Let's go to the wide receiver ballers from last week. Again, we haven't really seen a lot of low. Like I was gonna say, any of these lower guys that can be your boom or bust, but I haven't really heard a lot of them. I'm not sure. Let's go. Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Tyler Lockett, rounding out the top 5, all with over or almost Tyler Lockett with 29.8 points, but all the rest with over 30 points. Devontae Adams leading with 39.7. These guys are sick. These guys are awesome. These are 3 top 10 receivers, and I believe they're must-starts in every league you have because, again, you'll be hard-pressed to find better than that. I'm starting Tyler Lockett in a league over Christian Kirk, who's been like a week-to-week starter because he's the 12th ranked receiver, and he's been doing good this year. He's coming off an 18-point game, and you would say, why are you starting somebody over someone who's coming off an 18-point game? Well, I'll tell you, it's someone who's coming off a 30-point game. Oh, yeah, Tyler Lockett, I'm on that bandwagon, boy. I'm on that bandwagon. Yeah. Keenan Allen, again, a great, he finally came back and did something awesome. He's finally made his freaking return. He's gone 12, 15, and 20 since he's came back fully from his injury. He's ramping up. I love it. I wouldn't say he's a must start. He's not. I would not start him over Tyler Lockett, but he's a great flex option for you coming into these playoffs. We'll go down the list towards buzz. We're looking for any big names here. Not seeing any big names really. I mean, I kind of am hesitant when I say I don't see any big names, but I don't. The only guy that's even close to being a bust, like around the 10-point range, is like Mike Evans. Again, I was talking about Mike Evans, barely combined. Chris Olave with 10. Not a lot of bust receivers. That's awesome. I love to see that, man. I love to see that for these guys. I love to see that. Let's go to tight ends. Tight ends, there was some surprises. Freaking Travis Kelce with only 7.6. I'll go bust first because I got to talk about him. George Kittle with 4.9. Bust. Travis Kelce, bust. Where's Mark Andrews at? Let me find Mark Andrews because 9.4, meh. Not really a bust, but I'll say it anyway. Bust. Don't like none of that. You know who's not a bust? Cole Kmet got 13.2. I was talking about him. Greg Dulcich, number 2 tight end, 14.5. I was talking about him. Yeah, let's go. I love these tight ends. The tight end leading the way, Cade Otton. Cade Otton, 14.8. Greg Dulcich, I would say Greg Dulcich is a very, very near must start coming in this week. I wouldn't start him over a lot of guys, but I'm dropping right now. I'm doing that as I speak. I'm picking up Greg Dulcich, dropping Cole Kmet because Greg Dulcich is the Broncos' whole freaking offense at this point. Their only receiver, their only running back. The Broncos are so injured, But Greg Dulcich is a tank. Hair flying in the wind. He is a tank. I love that. Noah Fant right under him with 14.2. He's had a bit of a mid-year, but you know what? It is what it is. That's the tight ends, I've talked about it a lot. It's hard for tight ends to score a lot of points. It's about finding consistency, and Greg Dulcich is the man of the hour. Let's go to kickers and defense real quick, because I want to talk about these guys. Greg Zuerlein with 18. My goodness me. That's all we got to say. 18 points from a kicker. Love to see that. And the Browns defense. Cowboys defense with 20. Not bad. The Browns defense, I was talking about at the start of the episode, 30 points. After being, I believe, one of the worst defenses scoring-wise in the NFL up to the point. They were like the 30th scoring. They had negative points against the Dolphins. They have like 3 games with 0. They've been getting killed. They go for 30. That's insane. 2 defensive touchdowns, only 12 points allowed, 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumbles recovered. Pretty sure you get 2 for that. A return touchdown. Yeah, okay, so that's, no wonder they scored 30. Oh my goodness gracious. And that's why the Browns could win the game with Deshaun Watson getting 5, because their defense was a freaking unit on that field. Wow, that's crazy. I did not know it was that big of a thing. That's crazy. All right. There's my studs and duds. I thought we would get more like out of nowhere, but we'll go to the next segment. We'll go to the waiver segment, and I'll talk about my guy at each position that I think you should pick up. My guys have been picking up this week. We got to find that Instagram post somehow, don't we? We got to find that Instagram post somehow. I'll go to my team. Also, I've been getting a little slack lately of how to pronounce names. Multiple people, not only my friend Mason, but multiple people have told me I'm not pronouncing names right. So I've made a promise. Next time I don't know how to pronounce a name, I'm calling Mason right on the show. I already have my phone hooked up to the Bluetooth just in case I find a name, and I'm just going to call him right on the spot. Don't care if he's hanging out with his girlfriend. I don't care, bro. I'm calling him, and I'm going to see how to pronounce it. So I'm not going to be calling none of that no English bull. No. I'm going to do my due diligence. Okay, let's go to yeah, that's right. Let's go to some available players. We're going to go available players, and I'm going to look at the stats from Week 13, the top available players in my respective leagues, and how much they scored. Samaje Perine, baller, talked about him. Mike White is going to be my quarterback from last week. He's going to be my quarterback from last week. He's been consistent of the 2 games he played. He's not going to lose that role. And I said you need a boomer bust. He can be your boom. So you know what? Pick up Mike White. I don't want to make another freaking Instagram post about Mike White. I've seen so many of them, but he is good. Running backs, right? P. Ryan already talked about him. Cam Akers with 19. I like. Isaiah Pacheco. Dude, I wanted to do this so bad. I'm calling him. Man, am I excited to do this. Oh, yeah. Isaiah, I'm going to say just Isaiah for now. Chiefs running back, if you don't know him. He's been having a couple good weeks, and the Chiefs offense is so high-powered. I'm not sure about this week, honestly. This would be a more guy for the top players than for like a top fantasy guys who don't really need to win this week than for the bottom guys, because I don't think he's going to do great this week against the Broncos defense, but I do think he could do good the following week. So this is more for somebody who you'll have in your bench. Okay, hopefully this works, because I'm calling Mason right now. Do we hear that? Do we hear that on the phone, guys? Well, it's ringing, so let me tell you. I'm not sure if he's going to answer, and then you know what? It's going to majorly disappoint me if he doesn't answer. Where's that sound effect? I got a little time to go to sound effects while the phone's ringing. Mason doesn't answer. I'm feeling like this. And Mason didn't answer, so you know what? That's okay. We'll go with Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco, whatever. I did my piece on Isaiah. I did what I had to do. Isaiah, you my guy. So that's all it's gonna be. Receivers. Let's go to receivers. I don't know about all the receiver action. Oh yeah. Oh, it's Keenan Allen. It's Keenan Allen. Dude, Keenan Allen might be the post of the week. Keenan Allen, forgotten about for so long, rises again from the ashes of injury. Let me see if he's even available in this league, because I want him if he is. But yeah, Keenan Allen, he's finally getting some more touches. He's not getting outshined in that offense. Mike Williams is still on the cusp of being out, and maybe I'll be talking about Mike Williams like next week as a guy who's coming back and finally playing well. I'm not sure, but Keenan Allen, he's a good flex option. Okay, I think I already did my tight end section. It's gonna be Greg Dulcich again this week. I've talked about him a little bit, but he is the only offense on that freaking team, and it wasn't a high scoring week really last week in terms of tight ends. So there's not a lot of like booming guys you can talk about. Greg Dulcich was up there, so I'm gonna go with Greg Dulcich. Let's go to defense. My defense and kicker like top choices for this next week. And then we'll finish it out with a bit of injury news, and that'll be it. We got a bit of a short episode this week. Sweet. My kicker of choice, available in most leagues. They're both on the same team. So these are guys that are available in most leagues. You know, if you have guys you like, go ahead and start them. But available in most leagues, we got the Chiefs defense and the Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker. Chiefs defense going against that Bronco offense. As a Bronco fan, I know until the Broncos prove that they can score more than like 15 points. I mean, did you guys know if the Broncos scored over 18 points, we would only have 2 losses on the whole year? We'd be 10-2 if we could score 18 points a game, which is like below average in the NFL. It's incredible. Until the Broncos prove they can score over that, until the Broncos prove they can score 1 touchdown, like the Chiefs defense probably it'll get a couple sacks. Probably not going to get a turnover, but it's going to get low amounts of points scored and a couple sacks. And that gets you a consistent game for your defense, and it's almost guaranteed with how the Broncos offense has been playing. So until they prove they can score points, the Chiefs defense is a good safe pick, and they're available in a lot of leagues. As for the Chiefs kicker, it's basically the same thing. I know the Chiefs offense is high-powered going against a high-powered Broncos defense. There's going to be chances for the Chiefs offense to score, probably not a lot. There's going to be a couple, right? Maybe a touchdown or 2 is what I'm guessing. I'm honestly, I believe the Broncos will hold the Chiefs to somewhere around 20 points in this week's game. Maybe a couple extra points and a couple field goals where the Chiefs defense is able to, or Chiefs offense, is able to drive down the field, and then they won't be able to finish in the end zone and look like a field goal. The Broncos defense is a bend but don't break defense. They allow some yards, but they hold when they need to. And I believe the Chiefs, it's a good balance of a great offense going against a good defense, which is good for a kicker. A kicker that's going against a pretty good defense, if they have a great offense, because their offense will give them a chance. It won't just be completely shut down. I mean, there's no way the Chiefs are getting shut out, so it's what's going to be. Those are my guys for the week. And honestly, those are my waiver ads. I think I'm going to go with Keenan Allen on the post this week. Keenan Allen come back. The injuries rise again. It's the week of injuries, and one player that's pushing past these injuries, Keenan Allen. So there we go. A good week of football. I'll go to the injury news real quick to just give you a rundown about everything. Go to my NFL app, but that was it. I've told. This is a great year for fantasy football. There's a lot of high scorers, and you're coming into the playoffs. I've said it a couple times already. I'm going to say it again. It's the risk and reward. It's a give and take. You do what you got to do, right? You do what you got to do to get in those playoffs. Lamar Jackson did not practice. Probably going to be out. I'm not sure about that, but it's not looking great. Josh Allen, full practice. He'll be back. And a blow, not even in fantasy perspective, but just as a Bronco fan and as a football fan, and to the Bills defense. I mean, in some ways, Von Miller, he's out for the season. It's a bit of a blow to the Bills' playoff chances, or not playoff, Super Bowl chances. We'll see what happens. Dante Foreman, with a foot injury, does not play. Another interesting injury. He kind of had his couple weeks, and then I haven't really started him since. He had a good couple weeks, and honestly, I don't believe you guys should really be starting him at this point. So, yeah, I don't know. It's fantasy relevant in terms of flex, but as I've said, it's a boomer bust. You don't want to take a guy that will give you 5 points. There's just no point. I'm gonna write these names down real quick. Dante Foreman, for a later post in terms of just injuries. Lamar. Okay, let's look at more injuries. What do we got? Bengals. Joe Mixon, full participate. It's not looking great for the Pirine bandwagon, but keep your eye on it. Keep your eye on it because some of you guys will need it. Anybody else? We're looking for anybody else. The Broncos receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, both limited and did not practice. this is another up for Greg Dulcich, and honestly an up for Latavius Murray in terms of running back carries in that offense. DeAndre Swift limited with an ankle injury. Not really fantasy relevant in terms of him, but fantasy relevant in terms of Jamal Williams. Bam, bro, give me a freaking clap. Yeah, boy, yeah, I pronounced that name right. Let's go. Anyway, it's good for him, get even more carries in that offense. Anything else? Josh Jacobs, questionable for Thursday's game. Ooh. I'm not going to write that down because I know he's not probably out yet. I actually will. I'll write that name down because he's playing tomorrow. That's big. Number 1 running back in fantasy football this year. Incredible. Very underrated. He's a beast. He is a beast. Mike Williams, again, limited in practice. Couldn't be Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen that could not be him. He's back. Aaron Donald with an ankle injury is out. I'm not sure if the Rams defense is even viable right now, but that is a little bit of a big deal. Jalen Waddle limited in practice. That shouldn't be a problem. Tua limited in practice shouldn't be a problem. I've said it in the past. Some guys just need breaks. Mark Williams, Mark Ingram. Now this is a little bit of a Mark Ingram suffered a slight tear of his MCL on Monday night. Mark Ingram is something that takes away from Alvin Kamara's touches. That is a tough choice. Do you play Alvin Kamara or not? I did not know about this news until right now. That's going to be a tough one. I'm going to say, honestly, I don't know. I would say if there's any of these guys I've talked about that are booming, or any of the guys that you just have a feeling will be booming, because Alvin Kamara isn't playing great this year already, but that is a bit of an up. I would say Alvin Kamara is a good flex option. If you look at just the rankings, right, because that's a good way to tell how many points a guy is scoring. I wouldn't start Alvin Kamara over anybody that's ranked higher than them this season, who has scored more points than him this season, because he hadn't really showed that he can score those points. But maybe start him above the 25th or 30th ranked guys, because that could be a big deal. Let's look at anybody else. We're just going down the list, alphabetical order. Najee Harris did not practice. Not super fantasy relevant, honestly. Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel both did not practice. That's kind of interesting. And as well as Jimmy Garoppolo, but we knew that because of his foot. I would say that those are both just limited, middle of the week limited guys that you don't really need to worry about right now. Kenneth Walker did not practice. Wow, there's so many injuries. I'm definitely going to make the Instagram later. Again, if you don't follow it, The Fantasy Avenue. I'm definitely going to make that Instagram injury themed because there is a ton of injuries this week. Well, thank God. I think that's it. Some big names out. Some big names, coming back. But that'll be the week. We'll see. I wish all of you the best to get into those playoffs. I believe, you believe. The first step is believing. The second step is executing. So let's get in there. Let's set our lineups right now. Let's do it. And let's get in those playoffs. Thanks again for showing up to the episode. Again, if you want to be on a guest, let me know. Super excited to have guests on the show. Again, follow the podcast, download the episodes, whatever you want to do on Spotify and Apple Music or anywhere you listen. Honestly, tell me on Instagram or in person if you know me where you're listening to this podcast, because I'm interested to hear how people are accessing this podcast. But yeah, that'll be it. Cool. I'm Mikey Andersen. I'm signing out. This was Fantasy Avenue, your road to fantasy football victory, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.